Evening is 5 p.m. on December 2nd, 2024. This is the Public Safety Committee and Committee of the Whole meeting. I am Rob Watton, Chair, and also present are Council members Kara Christensen and Dr. Catherine Cotton, as well as Dina Dean, City Clerk, Mike Chambliss, whom we're glad to see back, City Administrator, and Dina Burke is our brand new City Attorney, day one. All right. Well, with that, I will call for the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Councilmember Cotton, second by Councilmember Christensen. Any changes, corrections to tonight's agenda? This very brief. Would you like to add anything to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we will accept the agenda as presented. Next, we move on to public comments. We allow residents and those that have an interest in what happens here in Snoqualmie to come to the council chambers and address the council members present as well as the administration. Not seeing anyone unless one of the staff would like to come forward and not seeing that, I will close the public comments. If you're joining us online through Zoom or through our YouTube channel, you can always submit your questions, your concerns to our clerk, Dina Dean, and she will make sure that those get passed along to both the council and the administration. So with that, we move on to minutes and the approval of the minutes dated November 18th, 2024. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Christensen, seconded by Councilmember Cotton. Are there any corrections, additions to the minutes? They will be approved as presented. And also make note that our esteemed Mayor Catherine Ross has joined us. Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
All right, we have no agenda bills and we move on to discussion. This is what Chief Bailey has been waiting for. This is the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan discussion led by Chief Bailey.
Good evening. Just wanted to go over where we are on this, and I felt it was important to leave this on the agenda because I had previously given you some timelines as to what was going on, and so I felt since this was our last meeting before the end of the year, although this got pushed to January, and I'll go into that in just a minute, I felt it was important to leave it on the agenda as a discussion item just to catch you up on where we are so that you're aware, and then to see if there was any direction for next year. So just to back up a little bit, the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, we've been working on it for the last almost 2 years now. Part of the requirement is once we had a document, it was supposed to go to the state. The state looked at it, reviewed it, provided their suggestions. It would come back to us and the vendor or the consultant, incorporate the changes we felt we could make, and then also look at ones recommended for the future. We did that. That happened back in July. It went to the state. They brought it back to us. The contractor had been working on it since then. We got it back to the state 2 weeks ago. I was still trying to get it on that timeline and get it done by the end of the year. At that time, I had a conversation with the director from emergency management for the state who I was working on. And at that time, I kind of laid out where we were at, and she said that their preference was to wait till January. Because the way that they usually do is then they take the comments, the list of comments that they provided on the document, they check it against what the changes were made, and then they provide like a final letter saying, hey, we reviewed your document, these are the things that we looked at, these are the things you've accomplished, these are the things you're going to wait on, and then they give that back to you, and then that's what that along with the CEMP is what they would like to see taken to council. And she said that that could be, that wasn't going to happen until January. And they considered when we submitted it back in July for their comments was the submittal to meet the WAC requirements. So we're good on our, before I told you, we were trying to get it done. We had an extension. We had to get it done by the end of December. The state said, as far as they're concerned, we've met that requirement. And they just wanted to kind of put a bow on it, tie it all up and provide a final document and use that final document to what the council is going to vote on. So, and then just to give you a review of the email that she got back, which kind of explains that. When the city of Snoqualmie CMP was sent to the state EMD for review, July 16th, this met the requirements of the WAC. The final review document should be returned back to you before January 15th, according to the agreed upon timeline. This will include a letter from the Director of Emergency Management, a completed review checklist showing the required and suggested elements addressed in your plan, and a list of recommendations to incorporate into the CMP that can be made over the next 5 years to fill any gaps that were addressed. So that was her response back to us, just confirming, the phone conversation I had with her as to the timeline. So what I'm looking at is, just to give you an outline of what we're going to do, since we don't have that meeting end of December, what's going to happen in January is the Public Safety Committee meeting, January 6th. I'm going to be bringing the strategic plan and the ILA for the fire garage. We haven't talked about it yet, but I'll be bringing that January 6th to go, then hopefully go to council January 13th. And then January 21st is going to be the date that I bring the CEMP to the Public Safety Committee with the eye of getting it approved the end of January. So that's kind of our timeline going forward. And I just wanted to, like I said, I wanted to lay that out for you just because we had some deadlines there that I wanted to make sure that you knew that we had met. And then also to see what your thoughts are on the when I bring that back to you for the CEMP, when you wanted to see it, if you wanted to see the complete document ahead of time, if you wanted to see the draft. I just kind of wanted some direction from you because it is a fairly large document. It's 50 something pages. Again, it's a lot of information that probably doesn't necessarily apply, but I wanted to know if you wanted to see that ahead of time to review the draft ahead of time, if you just wanted to wait until we got the final letter from the state. I kind of wanted to get some direction, ask you what your thoughts were on how you wanted me to present that to you when we had that final document.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let my fellow council members lead off. I do have my own views, but want everybody to have a chance to chime in. Councilmember Christensen?
I'd prefer to have a copy of the draft in advance.
Okay.
If we could get that before we go on the holiday break, I'll have some fun reading at home. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right. So,
And that would be the draft as far as, will the final, do you want input from us at all, or is it just?
Honestly, I don't believe that there's going to be, in my reading through, I've gone through it, I've adjusted it, we've made changes back and forth. If there's anything that you see, we can obviously address it. I don't think it's something that we're going to necessarily need to address before approval. We could maybe keep a list of things that, like they said in the email to me, over the next 5 years, we're allowed to make updates to that every year. So those are updates we could make. But that is the draft that the state is approving. So like, I don't think there would be an opportunity necessarily to make changes to it, but we could always make changes to it after after the version from the state's adopted. Then you're allowed to go back and make amendments to it. And you just keep a list of the amendments. So what I'd be able to provide to you ahead of time would just be allowing you, a chance to review it, would be the same document that the state is using for their final recommendation. It's the final stamped copy that was provided to them. And then the only difference that you wouldn't see would be by January 15th, they are going to provide me with that letter and the final checkoff that said, do this, do this, do this. They're going to provide that to me that says, hey, we reviewed it. These are the things we recommended. These are the things you added. Stamp, good to go. That I won't have until January 15th. That was the timeline they gave me, but I could provide you the draft to at least read now. Like I said, it is a fairly large document.
so I believe what the consensus is that we'd like to see the draft that was submitted to the state, but just for a couple contextual points. One is, we're talking about RCW's revised Code of Washington. Those are the things that are adopted by the legislature, where WAC is Washington Administrative Code, and that's the implementation of the legislation at the state level. So really what we're looking at is something that happens generally on a 5-year rotating basis. We had a little bit of an extension because of the change in our chiefs and administration. So I think, to help the committee, and that is what we want to do is take a look at it so we're apprised of what's in there. There may be some changes that come back at recommendation, but again, it's at administrative level. This kind of is the same as on our side would be the administration, and it's our job as the council is more primarily setting policy and making sure that the chief has the resources to accomplish what's needed. I guess the overview from us and the council would be, if there's things that we think should be addressed, and how do we go about it? I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole with that, because really that's not our job, and we don't tell you how to fight fires or respond to, emergencies, but we make sure you have the resources to do so and the support. So if that makes sense. And in light of that, is there any other questions or concerns or things that you're kind of curious about what's different in this 5-year plan versus previous one?
Yeah, what I can do is I can provide you the draft. I can also provide the recommendation, list of recommendations that came back from the state, back 6 months ago. I can provide both of those to you just as documents that you can review so you can see where the changes were made. But I think the way that you described it is very similar to what the state described to me. And, it's a 1,000-foot level document that's required by the state, but then the actual nuts and bolts of it, how we do different things, some of the operational plans, that's up to us at the local level. This is the document that they need to make things happen, but how we actually do things is kept out of the document. It's more, like you said, down in the weeds. Those are things that we figure out on our own.
Yeah.
And the way that we actually operate with the document.
Right. Okay. Any other further questions? Yeah, I think, it's important to keep in mind that this is just kind of the overarching, way of making sure that all the agencies are thinking and addressing similar types of matters in a consistent way, and just kind of gives them a roadmap and to make sure that management has basically a business plan in place. And we do that with our capital investment plan, that we take a long-term look, but really there's more to it, and that's why we have the chief, to make sure that those things happen.
And I didn't want to include the document in the agenda packet just because I wanted to
Right.
give you the options of how you want to deal with it going forward. I didn't want it to be public until the council
Right.
gave their chance at it.
So in you providing that to the council members, the committee members, we're not at that point publishing it. We're just seeing a preview before it's presented so that we could formulate our own ideas, our own thoughts. And then once you come back with the final document, then that does become public record and allows people to chime in. But I think it's important for us to be very familiar with this so that we're not caught flat-footed, I guess.
And then that was exactly my thought process, is I thought you would want to see it ahead of time so that if there was questions from the full council or anything like that, or if there were things that we saw that we maybe wanted to address, we could, we could approve it. But then, like I said, there's we have the ability to make modifications to it on our own. We don't need the state approval to it. There, you just keep a list of, if you looked at the previous document from years ago, you keep a list every year of, okay, we made this change, we made this change. And then those are incorporated into the document every 5 years.
Okay, updated. Over to the administration side, is there anything that you'd like to add or any commentary? Okay. Think we're good. Thank you very
I'll
much.
get that sent out later this week. I'll get those sent to your email later this week so you can have them review over the next couple of weeks till our meetings in January.
Okay, appreciate it, Chief. Thank you very much. So with that, We have a very short agenda tonight. And unless there is other business to come before us, we'll call for adjournment. Is there a first and second?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Christensen, seconded by Councilmember Cotton. Then we bring the public meeting of the Public Safety Committee to a close at 5:15 p.m.